Welcome to Bean and Bracket Factory, and welcome to my latest episode about this. This is a 1958 BSA C12 that's been languishing in a shed for about 40 years. I don't know if it was pushed in the shed because they stopped using it or pushed in the shed because it broke down, but either way, the objective of this particular project is to get this girl going, resurrect her, get her started, make her roadworthy, maybe go for a road trip, who knows. So here's a quick guided tour of the old girl. It's all very original and complete, well, apart from the seat. It's had a fairly hard life though, 50,000 miles for a 250. You can see that evident in the state of the rear sprocket. That's horrendously hooked, but it's also relatively unmessed with, which is exactly what we want, of course. That's the ignition switch. It should be a big knob on there, but that's missing. Yeah, all relatively complete, present and correct. So I think the first thing we'll do is start to investigate the electrics, because first thing you want to do is make sure you've got a spark. So let's do that first. So let's have a chat about the ignition system. So this is a coil ignition. We can see the coil hiding down inside there. And it's a 6-volt system, which is a positive earth. Battery sits here. There was a battery with it, but it's completely knackered. So I need a new battery, and the battery was housed in a big kind of rubber box. So I've ordered a battery and I've ordered a rubber box. And the way the coil ignition system works is that the battery or the dynamo charges at the coil, and the points earth the coil here. So it's the standard points, and that gives us the spark. So whilst the battery's on order, oh, I forgot to mention, this is the ignition switch. It should have a little key in it, but I can use a screwdriver, so that kind of switches like that. Center position is off, and right is start, and then you've got like an emergency setting on the left. So what I can do, even though I haven't got the battery yet, is I can put it on what should be on, and I can check there's a continuity between the negative and the coil. Remember, it's positive earth. The negative in the coil, and also the coil and the points. So I can do that. If I've got continuity, then theoretically, when I've got a battery, I should have a spark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the continuity between the negative, which is connected to the battery, and the coil. The ignition switched on, so if I get continuity, I know that when I plug in my 6-volt battery, I'm going to be feeding 6 volts to the coil. So it should sound like that if I've got continuity. Yes, I have. Okay, so that's good. So that's the first test. The second test will be to see if I've got continuity between the points and the other terminal on the coil. So I've got one of the multimeter probes on the coil, and I'm going to just tap it on the points. So I've got continuity, so that's quite good. So that tells me that when the ignition is in the on position, I've got a 6-volt feed to the coil, and I've got continuity through to the points. So, and I know that if I turn the kickstart over, these points open and close. So it means I should get a spark. If I don't get a spark, it'll be the coil. So time to plug in the battery and see if we can get a spark. So while I'm waiting for the new battery, I'm also draining the fuel out. It has got fuel in, and I know it's, well, I don't know how old it is. It's going to be pretty old, so let's see if we can drain it out. Oh, blimey. I can already see that lots of sludge has come out of there, so that instantly tells me we're going to have to take the carb off. And fuel's coming out with the tap off. Oh, tell a lie. Taps on. So I'm going to let this dribble out now, and I'm going to have to take the carb off and see what's going on inside there. So I've just drained the fuel out, and you can see that sludge and all of that sludge in the bottom, in the corner, is not a great sign. Well, it's not a bad sign, it just means the carb needs cleaning out, so time to take the carb off. Right, it's now on the bench and we can start delving into it. It had a gasket which was destroyed. It's also got what looks like the remains of a rubber O-ring in there, so I'll gouge that out at some stage. Looks like it. Yeah, just I'll cut that all out and use another O-ring. But what I really want to do is get inside here and see what sort of state. So this is the float chamber in here. So if we open this up, never been done. I'll get my big hand out of the way. See what's going on inside. Talk amongst yourselves. Right. So look. It's got a gasket. Okay, so I'm going to have to slightly lever it off. There we go. Difficult to see, I suppose. It doesn't actually look too bad in there. I think that's probably because in here we may well have a filter. So let's have a look inside there. All these fastenings are Whitworth. I was slightly surprised to find. I thought they would be Imperial AF. Let's have a look inside here. Ah, there we go. There's the filter, and you can see that it is completely and utterly clogged with gunge. So right, so now I'll spare you the boring detail, but now I've got to clean all this up and screw it back together again. So it's back together now. Fitted a new O-ring. I've got this big box of O-rings which is quite handy to have, and I've scraped off all the old gasket material, and I won't be putting another gasket on. I'm just going to stick with that O-ring. But what I also found is that the filter in there was obviously very clogged, but this tube here was completely blocked. In fact, it was so solid and blocked I had to use a drill bit, a very thin drill bit, to actually get all of the compacted silt out of there. So there is absolutely no way this bike would have worked in this condition. So that may well have been what caused it to be pushed into a shed all those years ago. So anyway, now ready to stick the car back on, and I can even put some fresh fuel in the tank. So the carb's back on, and I put fuel in the tank, and I've turned the tap on, and it flows in quite nicely, and then it stops as it should. Doesn't piss out everywhere, so that's all good. But I still haven't got the battery, so I can't try and start it. So I think I'll wind up this episode now, and I've got an Austin 7 that's demanding my attention, so I'll move on to that. So if you want to see me start this, you'll have to tune into the next thrilling episode. I'll also try and sort out the seat and sprocket, and I've got to look at the oil system as well. But anyway, that's all for now. Tune in to next week's or next whenever's thrilling episode of the C12 project. That's all for now. Cheers, bye.